G'day, welcome back to the shed. And if you watched the last part of this series, you'll know I've got this little Peal battery portable radio going. It's a farm radio, very evocative of the era, made in 1948 I believe. And it's a lovely little radio, but it's only a battery portable if it has batteries. And so far I've just had it running off my power supply here and one D cell to run the filaments. So I'm going to have to do something about the batteries. Now it did come with a set of original batteries in it. Of course they're dead, so I'm going to see what I can do to perhaps stuff these battery cases so that we can still use them with new batteries inside. So that's what I'm going to do. We'll have a look at them and just see what I can do with them. I think I should be able to fit 3 or 4 D cells in here. These I've got 5 9-volt batteries in there to make up 45 volts each. It needs 90 volts on the plate. So let's get on with that, see what I can do. Now I think I'll start with this filament battery here. So looking at the case, it does have some staining down here, so it looks as if the batteries inside may have leaked a bit. I don't know if I can do much to remove that. I'll see what I can do. But let's take it apart and see what we've got inside. Now this top piece is a bit decrepit, it's a bit torn and damaged. I'll possibly try and repair that. Inside we've got these waxed cardboard pieces and 2 farm stock clips, which look to have been very amateurishly soldered on. I'm not sure if that was the original arrangement or not, but it's what we've got now. And underneath we have 8 cells by the looks of it. I don't know if they'll come out. I'll try. It's moving. Ooh, look at that. They have definitely seen better days. This one's got a hole in it. They've all got holes in them. Yeah, it's a mess. I guess I'll start by taking this positive wire off. I don't know where the negative wire would have gone to. Probably onto there. And it looks like these are just hand soldered on. Things were different back in those days. Anyway, I'll take that away. I'll probably reuse that one way or another. Looks like these have been stapled on or something. Yeah, there's staples in that. We should be able to clean it up and reuse it. Bit of a mess. I do think perhaps these were not the original setup. I don't know. Anyway, there's nothing much we can do with these, so I'm going to take them away. Look at that. So let's see what we can do with this. I don't know how many D cells I can fit in. Now, probably getting ahead of myself a bit, but I bought a couple of C cell holders, hoping I can put 4 C cells in here. Looking at it, I'm not so sure that I can. I can put one across there. The other one is not going to fit. I could have fitted more C cells in, but C cells are hard to get now, or becoming hard to get, and expensive when you get them. So these are still cheap and plentiful. So I went with the D cells, but yeah, that is not going to work for us. Not with 4 of them. And I think the batteries bulge out too far to put them in. No, they won't go like that. Not with a battery in them. I've got my original D cell holder here with 1 battery in it that I've been using on the radio. That will go down in there. That's probably the best I can do with this. I can't put anything across the top. Alright, well, I guess we'll work on that. I don't know how long 3 cells would last, but at least they're cheap and easy to get, so I'll put 3 of them in it. Now what I propose to do is make up a liner of some sort for this, probably out of plywood or something, and I will scan the case so that I can reproduce these later on. When I do that, I'll probably look at 3D printing an inner case for them and maybe fitting in more cells. But for this radio now, I'm just going to go with 3D cells and a timber insert with that you can just slot the cells into. Now this piece does fit neatly in there. I think it probably came with the battery. It's probably original. It goes, yeah, so if I measure this, I'll get the width and depth. So that is 127 wide, 61 on that side. Now the depth is going to have to be, well, the overall depth I make it 106 deep, but we'll have to allow for this on top of it, and then this, and this is set down somewhat into the top, so yeah, we'll have to allow for that, of course. This is 13 millimeters, and plus we have 2 layers of this, which will come to, yeah, about 2 millimeters, so say 15 millimeters off the height. So I've made up this little box out of MDF. I hate MDF, it's horrible stuff, but that's what I had lying around. It's taped up because I'm just gluing it all up, and it should fit neatly in here. Now I've just taken this carton apart and scanned it, so that's why the edge is off like that. But this does fit quite neatly in there, and that top piece will be recessed, and yeah, the connections will go in there. I can fit 3D cells across here, and I'll put them on a separate little board that I can slide out. Well, we're making some progress, and my original cunning plans had several revisions, but here we are. I have the 3 battery holders mounted in here, the wiring run to these 2 terminals, and the plan is to have this piece, this is original part of the battery, on the back here with cutouts for the terminals. It originally had this underneath, and the terminals were roughly stapled to here and kind of falling off. I'm not even sure if that's the original setup. And this was over the top, but I don't see that that performs any function at all, so I'm not going to use it. I'm going to put these cutouts in this piece here, attach that there. This will go over the top here, and the whole assembly will slide into the battery box like so. Well, after much fiddling around, I've got it all wired up to the terminals, positive on that side, screwed and glued together, so hopefully it'll stay together. And I've tidied it up a bit, put this little strip across here to protect the wiring, and it all seems to be, well, that's about as neat as I can get it anyway. And that fits quite well in here with no dramas. The other thing I've done is put a screw hole in the back. I know it's damaging the case further, but I think you need to, because this just fell out too easily, and a couple of times I just about dropped the inside on the floor. So that will now hold it in. It's in the dead center, so it doesn't matter which way you put this in, it still goes in. I've also checked that this screw doesn't foul anything in the radio. So let's move the radio here. So the wires will go through this little notch here, across here, and the two 1.5 volt leads will go down the side here. So the battery needs to go in this way, and as I said, that screw is above anything else. So that's not going to foul anything. These wires will go down here and connect onto the farm stock clips. So anyway, the only thing remaining to be done is to clean up these scraggy wire ends, and I'll probably put a little pigtail with a loop of wire with solder in it, something that'll be a little bit more robust than just the bare ends of the wire. There's enough length to do it, so not a problem. Okay, so I'm just making up a little clip like this. I don't know if that'll focus. Just a little pigtail with a loop of wire back into it, and I'm going to fit that on the end here. I'll just strip this wire back a bit, let it soak through and make sure it tins properly. And get good and hot. There we go. And I'll bleed some solder up this wire loop as well. Let that cool for a minute, and then I'll put a little bit of heat shrink over it. I've done the same thing with the positive lead. I'll have to heat shrink that back on. I forgot about that. There we go. Okay, so that will now go onto the battery here, but the positive has to go to the positive, so we'll put that on here. And the negative to the negative. So that will then just slide in here, and these will go to the B batteries, plus and minus, which of course are these two 45 volt jobs. They go in here. Oops, that's caught up there. Bit of a tight fit, but it's all right. So that brings us to the B batteries, and they're both in pretty much the same condition, so I only need to scan one of them. What I will do is, I'm not sure how these come apart, so this one has the bottom already loose on it, so that's a good start. I'll try and undo that. I don't know if it comes off any further. Yep. I'll just try to prise that off there without doing any further damage if I can help it. That's kind of coming off, yep. Try and do the same on this side. Just prise it away. Yeah, okay. W.E. Smith Limited, makers of cartons. Interesting. So in the bottom we have quite a bit of packing. A number of these. It doesn't seem to want to slip down in a hurry. Oh yes, it does. And here we go. A whole stack of cells in 2 columns, and we have this connector up here. Now I do have plugs for this. I found some, so I'll be able to use the original plugs on this one. Okay, I'll just clip those off. This is corroded, but the rest of it's in not bad condition, and it can probably be reused in the new battery. That's a piece of corrugated cardboard in there, just ordinary cardboard carton stuff. Only 2 connectors are used. This one's not connected. Okay, well, I'll put that aside and see what we can do with it later, along with the spacers from the bottom. I don't think there's much I can do with these. Yeah, interesting construction. I have seen batteries like this back in the day, a long time ago. I think when I was a kid I used to pull 9-volt batteries apart, and they were constructed very similar to this. Possibly the new ones are too, I don't know. I haven't tin opened one to find out what's inside. They've got metal cases on them now. And I guess I'll do something similar with this, in terms of something that slides in, probably from the bottom, since this seems to have opened up quite well. I will need to unpick this to scan it, which is unfortunate, but I do want to get scans of these. The interior is in quite nice condition. It hasn't leaked like the other one. So I guess I'll do the same thing with these, that is line it with plywood or something similar. I may not do the end, I don't think I need to, and construct some kind of a drawer or slide to go in here. In fact, I'm not sure if I need the plywood liner. It could just slide straight into the cardboard. This would then need to be done up perhaps with Velcro across here. Just undo it, pull it out. Just thinking out loud here, I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. Alright, first things first, some measurements. So this was 135 long, and I just double checked the measurements. So 135. Well, we're getting there slowly. At the moment the plan is to attach all these battery clips together like that, with just a bit of heat shrink over the join, and perhaps I'll glue them to this piece of wood, something like that, to hold them all in position, or perhaps I'd be better off to leave them loose. I don't know. Okay, so I've let these wires out through the hole in the front of the box, and I'm just going to take it onto these. These are the original wires out of the terminal. They go on here, and I've definitely identified that as the positive. It matches up with plus 45 on there, so it's the right one. So we'll just solder these on now. This is old wire, so I'm just going to put a bit of flux on it just to make sure that it works okay. Don't want any dodgy connections in here. So there we go. I'm just going to bend that over, make a nice secure connection. And hopefully that will sit there. and that will then sit in here like this. The idea of this wiring is so that you can take the batteries out and put them on and then fit them into the box more easily, having this length of wire. Now I was going to just glue this on, but it's kind of waxy stuff. I'm thinking I might need to screw it or something as well. I'm not too sure. Okay, I've put some contact on adhesive on here and let it go tacky, so we'll just see how well it sticks. I think that'll be alright actually. Okay, well let's try it out. Just put the batteries in. Take this tape off them to start with anyway. I don't know if the tape's a good idea or not. So I guess I'll start from this end. Doesn't matter. One. They're all positive up, of course. All facing the same way. Oops. Now, these go in this way. It's a bit messy to put them in. I'll just put them along here. Gee, okay. Come on, out you come. Yes, I think putting a bit of tape along them was probably a good idea. Now these tuck down behind that piece of timber there, like that. Now what I can do is take that piece of wood out and put it in afterwards. That I left it loose in case it was difficult to put them in, so I'll do it that way. So we put them in like this. Put the piece of wood in like that. That's easier. Now this piece goes on top and this goes on top of that. I might just glue that on there, but for the moment I'll just put it like that. Make sure it's not fouling the wiring. Tuck that down there. Okay, that sits in there. Alright, now this goes that way. I'll put a Velcro dot or something on that, and there we go. So we should have 45 volts on this. That's the positive, that's the negative. And I'll get a good contact going here. 48.5. I'm just not touching it properly with the probe there. 48.4 volts DC. So it's a little bit over, but I guess that's alright. Now all I've got to do is do the other one. And I have been cutting parts for both batteries as I go, so this one should at least be quicker. I'm working on the second B battery now. It's an identical copy of the first one, of course. I have made a few little modifications along the way. I've replaced the packing piece here with some closed cell foam, which makes it easier to put the batteries in, and also to make it easier to replace them, I've put a little string pull on this side panel here, and that will now pull out, and that then makes it much easier to remove the batteries. They'll now pull out on a cord like that. I do think it's going to be worthwhile to tape them together, though. It does make it very much easier. So then we just replace this piece in here, and the lid goes on it. I don't know if I have the lid here. Yes, I do. This is glued onto the back, takes up the space, and it just fits in there. It has a slight pressure on it, so it will pop up. I don't think there's any need to have anything to undo that. It will pop in. So I'm going to be doing the same as that to the B battery, the other B battery. Little trick my dad taught me: put a bit of soap on the screw before you put it in. It makes so much difference. And of course line them up horizontally. So this will be the same thing. I put yellow heat shrink on this one and blue on that one so I can tell them apart. Nearly finished. The next thing to do, of course, which I haven't done yet, is pull the other battery apart. So I'll do that now. Just get this out of the way. Unfortunately, it's not coming apart as easily as the other one. I'll probably have to do some repairs to this, but I can glue it back together. That's all right. It's not a big problem. Now, as in the other one, we have these packing pieces in the bottom. There we go. I managed to find some of the correct battery plugs for this, so I'm just hooking them up, which is easier said than done because this old wire doesn't want to take solder. But I finally managed to get the wire to tin, and got the iron good and hot, so we'll just solder him in. Let that run down inside the pin. No, I've got a drip on the side. I didn't want that. Never mind, we'll clean it off. Probably clean it off with a bit of braid. Okay. Just clean that solder lump off the side here, if I can. Yeah, that's it. There's some machine outside making that deep rumbling noise. I don't know what it is. Slide a little bit of heat shrink along here. I just realised that these labels on the wires, B plus 90 and B minus, are redundant once you've got the plugs in, because they'll only go in one way anyway. But I think it's safer to have the plugs. You can't get it wrong then. We'll just shrink that on. I've also put a fuse in the B plus line. I don't want to think what would happen if you got a short in the B plus with these batteries hooked up to it. So this is a 500 milliamp fuse. I don't know what current exactly the B plus draws, but it would have to be less than that. If it's drawing 500 milliamps, gee, it's going to flatten those batteries fairly quickly. But I don't know. I should measure it really just to see what it is. I've finished the second battery holder, so I'll just put that one back there. I bought 2 6-packs of these batteries because it was cheaper than buying 10 individual ones, and leaves me with a couple left over. And one thing I found is it is easier by a long shot to tape them together before I start to try and put them in. So I'll just make sure that that's all lined up and put some tape over them. Otherwise, yes, they do that, fall all over the place, whatever. Now these will fit in like that, pressed in against that little bit of foam, and this packing piece just slides down the side there, and that should all stay in place when I put the lid on. There we go. So that will slide in there. And that's the other one. I'll put a bit of tape on there temporarily. Well, we're finally at the point where we can try it out, but first I'll show you another anomaly I've come across with the construction of this thing. This A battery, the filament battery, I was putting it in like that, and with it like that, these two batteries almost fit in, but it's a bit squashy. They do go in. No space there though, and the wires are pushed around the edge of this battery. Also, this can move in and out, although the back panel does have this piece on it which holds it in place, so I suppose that's not a problem. The anomaly I'm looking at though, if it is an anomaly, is that this piece of timber here does not go all the way to the back of the cabinet. In fact, it fits neatly into here. So if you put it in here, that battery just fits in like that. Now that moves the battery across a little bit, and so these two no longer fit snugly, they flop around. Nevertheless, this gives the wires more room to connect up here, and I like that way better. So what I've done is I've made up a piece of wood to go in here, and that packs a whole lot in nicely. But I don't know which way. Well, I guess it's supposed to go with the A battery facing this way. I'm not sure now. I made this up thinking I was going to do it this way. That's not properly seated in there, that's better. And now I'm not so sure. I suppose I'll put it together the way I originally thought. We'll just turn this around. Have the leads facing this way. Sorry, this way. I think they went down. It doesn't really matter which way they go. These have the labels still on them, plus and minus 1.5. Just put them in there neatly. I'll put these batteries in. And yeah, they do fit pretty well like that. I think that's probably the best way to go. So we plug these in. Come on, in you go. There we go. And this one. And the fuse will just have to sit down here. Oh, I'll put the schematic in a little plastic bag. That can go in here too. And that will have room for the back to go on without fouling anything, I think. And that has to tuck neatly up into there. Okay, so here we go. This is without any aerial connected to it.
Full terms is at McDonald's.
Hi, my name's Tony.
Hi, Tony.
And I've been a chronic order for 40 years. Brake lights, door panels, wing mirrors, windscreens, door locks, tailgate.
That sounds real.
Still getting that buzz.
2025 is happening. Let us continue to Amanda's final chapter. Amanda says, I was trying to strategize.
Now, I haven't yet trimmed the aerial either, so what I might do is just set the signal generator up to 1600, put it into the external aerial loop on here. It's popping out. There's some pressure on that. I thought it was all going to fit in snugly. Yeah, it's that fuse holder. I should have put a longer wire under it on it so I could tuck it in here. In fact, I may still do that. That's not very good. It could, I suppose, go up in here. Yep, that works. That's better. Could maybe even put a little clip for it there or something. Let's see how that works. And that fits in nicely. That's the other anomaly with this thing, is that this back panel is not the right size. It should fit up and underneath this top panel. But if you do, the screws don't go in. And I can't imagine why it's designed like that. But that's how it was. So I guess that's how it stays. See, this should fit up like that. Beats me. Anyway, there we go, and it works. So let's just do this aerial trimmer. Signal generator's on. Just clip it to the aerial loop here. This is the external aerial thingy. And we'll open the lid and see if I can tune it to there we go. And I'll turn this output down as low as I can. A little bit more volume there. Okay, that's about minimum. Let's see if I can get it any better than it is. Okay, that's earthing it, obviously. I'll see if that moves easily. Not particularly easily, but I should be able to move it with an alignment tool, hopefully. Let's see what I've got here. This one might do the trick. It's getting quieter. It's bending my little nylon tool. These are crappy ones. I wish I had a good one. Let's see if there's anything in here. Try this one. I might have to just move it a bit and then that sounds like it's peaked there. Yep, so it was pretty close anyway. I thought I'd try it with an external aerial and earth, so I've got the ground to my power supply hooked up here and the external aerial. Let's just see how it goes. It seems much quieter in terms of noise.
Ravishing strangeness and its heartbreak. That time-wise were the comfort of strangers, with its deep mystery and creepiness. The metic power of its realism is in effect the artful concoction.
Second here. Had his head taken off. So Rayner onto his left boot, kicks it towards half forward. Cameron the target, goes past him. Henry now, a good take.
So who's going to benefit theoretically the most?
Shiny descent, short, fine single, 60 metres out. Against the boundary line, right half forward. Looks back in there, fine, close.
Of course, it's the football today. Football grand final, I think. Something like that. I thought I'd set it up here in the backyard and see just how it goes outside of the shed.
Around 800 buildings built between 1923 and 1943. Ocean Grove.
Likely to go to Bailey Smith, so they've got one quiet.
A lot less noise between stations for a start.
Mark Zuckerberg invested in Metaverse.
Let's see how 6IX comes in. Should be... Oops, that might be music. That's phenomenal for 6IX. Can't get it that well on the radio inside. Anyway, that's good. Well, there we are, finally finished. It's been a bit of a job, this one. It's taken a lot of time. I put a lot of hours into it, and I hope the owner's going to be happy with it. I really like this little radio. It's just, I guess, as I said in the first video, evocative of a simpler time when maybe the world wasn't the bin fire it is today. And just the styling, it's simple, utilitarian, practical, everything you wanted. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. I'll be back soon with something else. I'm not too sure what yet, but there'll be something for sure. So thanks for watching. We'll catch you then. Bye for now.